Oh, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have all of the windows open today. Yes, that's different, but that's because it's like 70 degrees and I have all the windows open and the AC off. So that's what we're rolling with today. Let me turn on some background music real quick. Finally getting over being sick, thank God. And we're going to jump into the great and the grand Northern Conspiracy. All right, let me turn that down a tad bit. Some Skyrim background music. 3 people here. How you doing? We are streaming a bunch of different places today, so we're just not going to talk about that. Wiggles, how you doing? How you doing? We're almost monetized. We're like 100 watch hours about away from being monetized, so it's kind of awesome here. I might actually make a video about this exact topic right after this video because it's an interesting one. So we're going to jump into hit the wrong button up there. That's not good. Get back to YouTube Studios real quick. And change it to the actual channel I'm on. We're gonna watch this video today. Gonna watch this video from 9 years ago. Because, well, I feel like we have to. It's so funny how videos from 9 years ago are still kind of relevant because we haven't gotten any new content. Vertical. Perfect. Okay. I'll fucking put everything else back here in a second. But yeah, we're going to get into this because, like I said, it's from 9 years ago, but it's still relevant. I'm in the room right now. How you doing? But yeah, it's relevant even though it's been 9 years ago because we haven't gotten any content. I've talked about this damn near every stream, damn near every video. With each passing moment, some people who watch Game of Thrones, some people who make videos, each passing cloud is a new conspiracy theory that they think was sent to them by George R.R. Martin, and it wasn't. But this is a pretty good one.
In A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, the Stark family have ruled the North for thousands of years, as Kings of Winter, then as Wardens of the North after Aegon came. Things change in the first book and season of Thrones when the Lord of Winterfell, Ned Stark, is imprisoned and executed by King Joffrey. Ned's son Robb marches south with an army, and the North secedes from the Seven Kingdoms, declaring Robb king in the North and the Riverlands, the first Stark king in 300 years. But this doesn't last long. Winterfell is captured by Theon Greyjoy, then burned by Ramsay Bolton, and the Stark kids scatter. Robb's campaign falters, and he's killed at the Red Wedding by the Boltons and the Freys. Roose Bolton is made Warden of the North. So for the first time in thousands of years, the North is no longer ruled by a Stark. Is this the end for the Kings of Winter, or does the North remember? In Season 6 of the Game of Thrones show, the Starks make a quick comeback. Jon and Sansa take Winterfell from the Boltons, Jon is named king, and the North is again ruled by a Stark, or a Snow, or a Targaryen, or a Sand, depending on who's keeping score, but the point is, in the books, none of this has happened. By Dance's end, Jon is still dead, Sansa's still in the Vale, Arya is still in Braavos, Bran is still a tree, Rickon's apparently on the island of Skargos, and Stannis Baratheon is still alive, with his army marching against the Boltons in Winterfell. While Stannis has some of the North on his side, most houses officially support the Boltons and their allies the Freys. But unlike the straightforward story of the show, the books lay out a massively complex political situation in the North, with dozens of important players, each with their own motivations, ambitions, loyalties, secrets, loves and hates and hopes.
So I've done a video on Rickon being in Skargos, which is an absolutely nuts happenstance and absolutely crazy turn of events, because this also has to do with the Manderleys. I'm trying to be very careful about how I talk about this. So the theory is Wyman Manderley knows Rickon Stark is in Skargos and is secretly plotting behind the Boltons' back because the Manderleys remember. When the Manderleys were, driven out of the Reach, the Starks were like, we'll give you this place, but you have to build us a badass sea city. And they're like, all right. And that's kind of the theory, or the theory as I know it.
have written hundreds of thousands of words of analysis and theories and predictions on this, many claiming that most of the northern houses are secretly plotting to usurp the Boltons and restore a Stark to Winterfell. This idea is called the Grand Northern Conspiracy. The Lords of the North have a lot of good reasons to support the Starks over the Boltons. The Starks have ruled the North for thousands of years, and people seem to think they've done a pretty good job. Historically, they've defended the North from raiders, slavers, Andals, wargs, and wildlings, and it supposedly was a Stark who built the Wall to protect the North from White Walkers. More recently, Ned Stark in particular was renowned for his sense of honor and justice, winning great respect and loyalty from many people in the North. Barbary Dustin says the Northmen love the Starks, but the Boltons, not so much. The Boltons are infamous for flaying their enemies and wearing their skins as cloaks. Their Lord Roose is cruel, cold, and creepy, known for his habit of leeching, and his son Ramsay is a straight-up psycho, a murderous beast in human skin, who hunts and rapes women for sport. The Boltons commit terrible crimes against the North in order to take control. Ramsay betrays and kills Northmen at Winterfell and kills the Lady of Hornwood. Roose sends northern armies.
These people scream like the who's who of who we don't want in charge. Fond of leeches? Sure. Okay. The Ramsay thing where he would hunt women and grape them for sport. It's just like, as a parent of many children, that's not exactly the person I want leading me, or the person in charge, or the person not locked up in a jail cell. Like, why are you not, head chopped off somewhere?
To a suicide mission at Duskendale, and at the Red Wedding, the Boltons betray King Robb, participating in the breaking of Guestright and the slaughter of hundreds of Northmen. Every lord at Winterfell lost family at the Red Wedding, and the North remembers. So the Northern Lords have plenty of motivation to oppose the Boltons and restore the Starks.
And I guess I somewhat forgot about that at the Red Wedding, when, I don't know, when Robb called the banners, they were all like, let's fucking go. So there were lords from everywhere, every northern house with Robb Stark. Or if not the lord of whatever, the son or nephew or grandson of that person. And then Roose Bolton helped murder them. So they're automatically going to be like, I don't know if you guys have ever played Bannerlord or Mountain Blade. One of my favorite games of all time. I've played it on stream before. If you as much as breathe on a certain family the wrong way, they're like, negative. Nope, our relationship with you is in the negative. As soon as Roose Bolton took power, damn near every house was negative for House Bolton.
To power. What evidence is there of a conspiracy? We know for a fact that Lord Wyman of House Manderley is plotting against the Boltons and Freys. He pretends to be on their side, but in Dance he secretly meets with Davos Seaworth and gives an awesome speech about the debt the Manderleys owe to the Starks, and about the murder of Wyman's son Wendell at the Red Wedding. He says the North remembers, and the Mummers' farce is almost done. Wyman reveals that with the help of an Ironborn boy called Wex, Wyman's learned the truth of the sack of Winterfell, that it wasn't Theon Greyjoy, but Ramsay Bolton who burned the castle and killed its people, and that Bran and Rickon Stark weren't killed by Theon, but are still alive. Apparently Rickon is on Skargos, an island up near the Wall. Wyman tells Davos to go there and fetch Rickon so that the North can rally around the young Stark and oppose the Boltons. If Davos does this, Wyman says, he'll accept Stannis as his king, with Rickon Stark as Lord of Winterfell.
So I actually did a video talking about the Red Wedding. Let me find which screen it's on. I did it fairly recently. Wiggles, I'm almost positive you watched it. Where is it? When did I do it? Because it was such a good video for me. It was such a good video for me. You guys didn't particularly like it, but I had fun doing it. It was what if a Game of Thrones fan woke up as Robb Stark from July 24th. A whopping 136 people watched it. Not the best. But I talked about the Red Wedding and what steps Robb would have taken for the Red Wedding if he had known the Red Wedding was for sure going to happen. Oh, God, there's so many things that could have been just easily prevented. Not to mention just not marrying the person he married. Shock, gasp. You could have just not done that. But barring that, it's ridiculous. Let's see here. So Varys, a merman, since it's the Avatar. Maybe. Maybe Varys is a secret Manderly.
Seems to be the plan.
Elijah,
So
how you doing?
Manderly is plotting against the Boltons, and other houses are in on it too. Robert Glover is at the meeting with Davos, and he may be in touch with his brother Lord Galbert. There are even hints that Robert may raise an army. Wyman says Houses Locke and Flint of Widow's Watch follow his lead, and we do see someone from House Locke speak up against Ramsay. So it seems Houses Locke, Flint, and Glover are, to at least some extent, a part of Manderly's conspiracy. It's also possible that House Umber is involved. The Umbers appear to be split down the middle. Half of them under Crowfoot Umber side with Stannis, while the other half under Horsebane Umber side with the Boltons. But it's made clear that Horsebane isn't really loyal to Roose. He only joins the Boltons because the Freys hold his nephew, the Great John, captive. Roose says the Umbers are cunning, and that he fears them, and he probably should. Because back in Clash, the Umbers are ordered to work with the Manderlys to build a fleet of warships, and in Dance, we see the fleet complete, hidden up the White Knife River. So given that we know the Umbers have been working on a secret fleet with the Manderlys, and that they're not really loyal to the Boltons, it seems very plausible that the Umbers are in on Wyman's...
Also, what kind of name? You have Tormund Giant's Bane. This guy's name is Horsebane. That's a top-notch nickname for the Game of Thrones universe.
Conspiracy. There's further evidence for this in the Dance chapters in Winterfell, where all the Boltons and Freys and their supposed northern allies are cooped up together in the castle, with snowstorms and Stannis coming outside, while tensions slowly rise. There's this one bit where it's mentioned that someone makes snowmen shaped like 4 particular northern lords: Wyman Manderly, Horsebane Umber, Harwood Stout, and Barbary Dustin. There's pretty strong evidence that these 4 snowmen represent a conspiracy in Winterfell. At one point, we see Harwood Stout, who's the sworn man of Barbary Dustin, talking quietly with Horsebane Umber, who we know has been working with Wyman. After this conversation, Barbara becomes strangely interested in the Winterfell crypts and gets Theon to take her down there. The crypts are the ancient resting place of dead Starks, each represented by a statue holding a sword. Barbary notices that 3 of these swords are missing. The significance of this is that these 3 missing swords are the swords taken by Osha, Meera, and Bran when they escape Winterfell. These 3 missing swords prove Wex's story that Bran and Rickon are alive and that the Boltons lie about the sack of Winterfell. The fact that Barbary searches the crypts in the first place suggests...
D-Man, how you doing? How you doing? What? Not loyal to the Vulcans? What are we talking about, D-Man? I was Googling something in the background and came back to the Vulcans. What?
that she heard Wex's story from Wyman, possibly through the conversation Harwood has with Horsebane. Further, we know from White Harbor that Wyman uses long visits to the Privy to disguise secret meetings, and it's hinted he continues to do this at Winterfell. So the evidence is pretty strong that Wyman, Harwood, Barbary, and Horsebane are conspiring in Winterfell, discussing Wex's story about Bran and Rickon and Manderly's plans to restore House Stark. After Barbary visits the crypts, she speaks out boldly to the Freys about the people killed at the Red Wedding. She parts her lips in a thin, feral smile and says the North remembers. So that's one part of the Grand Northern Conspiracy. Wyman Manderly, Robert Glover, Horsebane Umber, and Barbary Dustin, along with the Lockes and Flints, appear to be plotting to betray the Boltons and make Rickon Stark Lord of Winterfell. But there's a whole other part to the conspiracy which takes place to the south with its roots in events of the
Not the Vulcans, the Boltons. Like Michael. Boltons. Okay, now we're on the same page. I was mind fucked there for a second. I'm like, the Vulcans? When did we get into Star Trek?
past. In the second book, Robb Stark says that if he dies, he wants Jon Snow to follow him as king in the north. At this point, Sansa is married to Tyrion Lannister, and Robb believes Arya, Bran, and Rickon to be dead, so he decides that the best course of action is to legitimize Jon as a Stark and have him follow Robb as king if he dies. Later that chapter, Robb meets with some of his lords and gets them to sign a document to declare Jon his heir. Now that Robb is dead, the question is, who knows about this will, and what plans might be underway to carry it out and make Jon king? The people who were present at the signing of the will include Catelyn Stark, Edmure Tully, Great Jon Umber, Jason Mallister, Maege Mormont, and Galbert Glover. The Great Jon and Jason are both prisoners, so they probably can't do much, but Maege and Galbert are sent on a mission to Howland Reed in the Neck, and it seems as though they do arrive because the Crannogmen follow up on some orders Robb gives about Moat Cailin. So Maege and Galbert seem to be with Howland in the Neck, and this offers a lot of opportunities for scheming, because not only are Maege and Galbert some of the only people in Westeros who know that Jon Snow is the rightful king in the north, but Howland Reed is the only living survivor of the fight at the Tower of Joy years ago, where it was discovered that Jon is the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar.
And we've seen the theory. What is it? The theory of Jon and Mira Reed being twins from the last live stream. Howland Reed is going to play either a super important role in the upcoming book or no role at all. That's where Howland Reed is going to be. The man is one of the few people in Westeros that literally know everything. He knows everything about everything, but has yet to make an appearance fucking anywhere.
Targaryen, potentially giving Jon a claim on the Iron Throne of all Westeros. That is a lot of super important information in one place, and there are some hints that this information is being put into action. This involves another witness to Robb's will, Catelyn Stark. So, Catelyn dies at the Red Wedding, but in the books, she's resurrected by Beric Dondarrion and becomes Lady Stoneheart, a terrible, vengeful spirit who leads the Brotherhood without banners down a dark and murderous path, killing everyone even remotely connected to the Red Wedding. But Stoneheart's not just a brutal killer, there's a definite method to her murder. During the Siege of Riverrun, a singer called Tom of Seven Streams spies for the Brotherhood in the Lannister Frey camp. He lets the Brotherhood know when certain Freys are traveling the Riverlands so that Lady Stoneheart can capture and kill them. Tom may also hear about the transport of Lannister prisoners and an upcoming Lannister wedding. Some fans speculate that the Brotherhood and some Riverlords will free the prisoners and crash the wedding to massacre Freys and Lannisters in a Red Wedding 2.0. But Stoneheart's activities also connect back to Robb's will, because in Feast, Stoneheart travels in or near Hagsmire, the place where Robb's will is signed, then heads back up into the Neck, the same place Howland, Maege, and Galbert seem to be. It seems likely that Stoneheart is involved in a plot with these guys over Robb's will, because she's not only a witness to the will, like Maege and Galbert, but Stoneheart also has Robb's old crown. So the power to crown the next king in the North is in her hands.
Also, this is kind of a... how to say this correctly. The fact that Lady Stoneheart wasn't involved in the show, I understand, because it would have made Jon coming back to life obvious. But on the second hand, takes out a gigantic character with a gigantic plot hole. For this whole thing right here. Also, what kind of shit is that? Who's going to be the one to tell her, like, oh, by the way, Catelyn, by the way, the kid that you hated this entire time because you thought it was Ned's bastard son, well, turns out he was just being a good brother and he was doing his dying sister a favor and raising her son, who is actually a Targaryen. Turns out Ned was just a really good guy and never cheated on you.
Which does raise an issue. Stoneheart might not want to crown Jon as king because, at least in life, Catelyn really doesn't like Jon. As a bastard son of Ned, Jon represents Ned's infidelity to Cat, but it just so happens that Howland Reed is the one person in the world who can tell Catelyn that Jon isn't really Ned's bastard, that he's Lyanna's son by Rhaegar Targaryen. Ned claimed Jon was his in order to protect him. So Stoneheart is a bit of an angry murder zombie at the moment and might not listen, but if Howland can change Stoneheart's mind about Jon, she may be happy to join in on a conspiracy to crown Jon king in the North. Lem says that Stoneheart doesn't speak because her throat is cut too deep, but, he says, she remembers. Another witness to Robb's will is Edmure Tully. He's a prisoner of the Freys at Riverrun, but he meets with some important people. In one chapter, Jaime Lee...
Speaking of Edmure Tully, I'm starting to, at this point, find all of these characters in other TV shows and movies. He was just in... What's that stupid Apple TV movie with Brad Pitt? Or I think it was Apple TV. The one with Brad Pitt, where he was like a Formula One driver. Edmure Tully went to buy his team or some shit and sell it. And I'm just like, I know that guy's face. Just like Sir Alistair Thorne. He was in some random vampire witch TV show. And I'm just like, yep, I hate him here too. KTZ, how you doing? How you doing?
The Brotherhood spy, so it's possible Ed shares information with the Brotherhood and Stoneheart. Later,
yes. Isn't that just called F1? Yes. That's exactly what it's called. It's just called F1. But yeah, I saw him in that, and I was like, damn, these people are getting everywhere nowadays. Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay. Yeah, I didn't mess with any of this at all. Hit the like button, y'all. Thank you, KTZ. Thank you.
Jaime lets Edmure enter Riverrun to end the siege, which presents a golden opportunity to conspire with the Tully men, including Edmure's uncle, Brynden Blackfish. Brynden is loyal to House Stark, and Jaime says he doesn't doubt Brynden will continue the fight. In the show, Brynden dies in Riverrun, but in the books, Edmure helps him escape. So now, Brynden's out there somewhere, determined to fight for House Stark, and since he speaks with his nephew Edmure, he may now know about Robb's will and the possible plot to crown Jon Snow. Another couple of men who leave Riverrun include Desmond Grell and Robben Ryger, the Tully Master-at-Arms and Captain of Guard. These guys choose to join the Night's Watch at the Wall, where Jon happens to be. Fans speculate that these trusted Tully men may have been sent by Edmure in order to contact Jon, maybe to tell him about the conspiracy to crown Jon as heir to Robb. So, this Riverland stuff is not as certain as the Manderley conspiracy. There's no direct evidence that any of these guys are plotting over Robb's will, but it is at least very suspicious that Mage and Galbert, witnesses to Robb's will, and Stoneheart, who has Robb's crown, all go to the Neck, where Howland lives, the one guy who knows the truth of Jon's birth. The stuff with Edmure, Brynden, Desmond, and Robben might not be related, but it is plausible that these guys are also somehow...
Imagine you're Howland Reed. Imagine you're Howland Reed for a second, and a bunch of people show up unexpectedly to your random moving castle. And they're like, Robb actually signed a will, and he wants Jon Snow, this random bastard, to be the next king of Winterfell. Or King of the North. And then Howland goes, oh, by the way, that's not his bastard son. That's the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. And everybody's just like, what a turn of events. What a turn of events to be Howland Reed in that moment.
Now involved in a conspiracy to crown Jon Snow. Okay, so we've got the Manderley conspiracy around Winterfell to betray the Boltons and support Rickon Stark, and a possible conspiracy in the Neck to crown Jon Snow as Robb's heir to the north. There's also possibly some plotting going on within the army that Stannis is marching on Winterfell. Part of Stannis' army is made up of men he brought up from the south, but most of them are Northmen, including the Mountain Clansmen, some Mormonts, Glovers, and others. And the Northmen don't like Stannis. He's a stranger to the north and worships a foreign god. The real reason they march in his army is to kill Boltons and rescue Arya Stark. In the books, Ramsay marries a girl who the Boltons say is Arya Stark, but is actually a girl called Jane Poole. The real Arya is over in Braavos, but the North doesn't know that. As far as they're concerned, Ned Stark's little girl is in the clutches of Bolton's bastard, and they're willing to die to rescue her. These guys are passionately loyal to House Stark. So, is it possible that they're involved in these conspiracies to install Rickon or crown Jon? The best hint we've got is that two leaders of the Mountain Clansmen, the Norrie and the Flint, come and visit Jon at the Wall, and Jon himself thinks that they must have some special...
That's where I know that name. Okay, Nori. If you guys recall, I did a video on... Oh shit, it was a while ago. Drawing a blank on when I did it, but it was about somebody in one of these Facebook groups saying, oh, the Starks are actually secret Black Alley, descendants. So I had to break down the bloodline, and I believe Cregan Stark's first wife was Aura Nori. And for a second there, I could not figure out where that was. That turns out Mountain Clans. Okay. And now my brain feels better.
reason to be there. Fans suggest that these clansmen know about Robb's will, and come to the Wall to judge if Jon could be a worthy king in the north. Jon discusses his plans for the wildlings with the clansmen, and tells them he may seem a green boy in their eyes, but he is still a son of Eddard Stark. Which may be exactly what the clansmen want to hear. But if the clansmen are in on the plot to crown Jon, how are they in contact with the folks in the Neck who know about the will? One possibility is that they're in touch with Mage Mormont through her daughter Alysanne, who's on the march with Stannis. Mage's other daughter Lyanna is the kid who writes that awesome letter and that speech in the show. Alternatively, the clansman might be in touch with Galbert Glover, maybe through his sister-in-law Sybil, who's been spending a suspiciously large amount of time praying in the Godswood, which is something Sansa does in Clash to receive secret messages. So the clansmen might possibly know about Robb's will, but there is another complication in that the clansmen know that Bran Stark is alive. They see him travelling north to the Wall, and a clansman from House Little even meets Bran. This is important information, because Bran is King Robb's oldest living brother, his heir, if it weren't for the will, which only skips Bran for Jon because Robb thought that Bran is dead. It's very telling that the clansmen don't tell Stannis about Bran. Whatever their intentions, they're clearly keeping secrets. So while there's no clear evidence of any conspiracy among the Northmen in Stannis' army, there are some possible connections, and at the least, the Northmen are clearly more loyal to Stark than they are to Stannis. There are a few other northern houses to talk about. House Karstark is an interesting one, because Arnulf Karstark joins with Stannis, but secretly plans to betray him for the Boltons. Part of his scheme is to forcibly marry the heir to Karhold, Alice Karstark, to his son Cregan, so he can be Lord of Karhold. But Alice escapes, and the person she turns to for protection and justice is none other than Jon Snow. She comes all the way north to the Wall and begs him for help, layers him as her only hope, as the last son of Eddard Stark.
When I first heard this moment, I'm just like, damn, Princess Leia, you're just carrying it over to a different fucking series. You are my only hope, Lord Snow.
There's no evidence Alice knows about any conspiracy, but her attitude to Jon does support the idea that the people in the North see Jon as the inheritor of Ned Stark's legacy, and a legitimate leader in the North. Anyway, in a sample chapter of Winds, Stannis finds out about Arnulf's deception and locks up his men, so the Karstarks are out of action for now. There's also House Hornwood. After the deaths of Lord Hallis and Darren, Danella becomes the Lady of the Hornwood, but Ramsay forcibly marries and kills her, starving her in a dungeon till she chews her own fingers off. Ramsay now calls himself Lord of the Hornwood, and some Hornwood men have submitted to him, joining the Bolton army. But as Barbary Dustin points out, the Hornwoods haven't forgotten what Ramsay did to Danella. There's no evidence of Hornwood...
Again, I pointed this out earlier. Ramsay was a great character in the show, specifically because he was so easy to hate. He's the Alistair Thorne, the Joffrey Baratheons, where you see him in other shows and you go, still fucking hate you, bro. Obviously, it's a fake show. Obviously, it's made up, but we're taking this into real life. If you were, I don't know, a knight in a castle, and some random dipshit came in, married the girl or lady who was in charge, and then that person then locked her in a tower till she chewed her fingers off and died, you'd probably be like, I probably don't want to serve this dickhead. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Who does he think he is? And it seems to be the overwhelming story everywhere Ramsey or Roose go, where they're like, this guy's kind of a fucking dick. I was just talking about that about the other day with the guy who played Joffrey Baratheon. I saw him in House of Guinness or something fairly recently, and he looks slightly different because obviously he's older. But you just go, damn, Joffrey grew up, and that's the role. And then I watched, I don't know how familiar you are with all this, Sir Alistair Thorne, the guy who was giving Jon Snow just fucking guff, and then eventually killed him, and then Jon came back and killed him. I saw that guy in an entirely different TV show. Like nothing similar to this. He was wearing like a fucking expensive suit. And I looked at him and go, I fucking hate you. But yeah, that shows how good of an actor they are, where they can have one role that they do so well in that it stays in your mind after the fact, good or bad. Like whether you really, really like them or really, really hate them, it stays with you.
Involved in any conspiracy, but it's fair to say they're not real loyal to the Boltons. The Coens and Tallhearts are similar. We don't know all that much about them, but we do know that Roose sends Coen and Tallheart men into a suicide mission at Duskendale, and that at the sack of Winterfell, Ramsay betrays and kills Lord Clay Coen and Leopold Tallheart. Some survivors of this battle end up joining Stannis' army, which could be a really big deal. These men could spread the word of
I am still picking out characters from Harry Potter to this day because we watch Harry Potter all the time around here. I think we watched Harry Potter yesterday, matter of fact. The babies love it. The grown kids love it. We both enjoy it, so we watch Harry Potter all the time. The fucking... Why am I drawing a blank on her? Well, why am I drawing a blank on her name? The one who was always seeing shit and all that nonsense. Gah. Anyway, her dad, the blonde chick, her dad was actually Otto Hightower in fucking House of the Dragon. And I'm just like, bro, I know I reckon. You can ask Mrs. Kafar. We watched the Sorcerer's Stone. They were introducing everybody, and then they panned back to Filch, and I went, man, I fucking hate the phrase.
Ramsay's crimes and betrayal at Winterfell, which most of the North still believes were committed by Theon. So while we don't know of any Coen or Tallheart involvement in any conspiracy, the houses are, in Roose Bolton's words, not to be relied on. Really, the only big northern house that probably is loyal to House Bolton is House Ryswell. The Ryswells are tied to the Boltons by marriage, and we see Ryswell leaders working closely with the Boltons and Freys. The Ryswells did lose men at the Red Wedding, but there are no particular hints that they're disloyal to the Boltons. So in the words of Roose Bolton, northern politics in Dance is a world of treachery and deceit.
I did not know that Tonks was the fucking wildling chick. Did not know that until right now.
People siding with the Boltons aren't really loyal to the Boltons. People siding with Stannis aren't really loyal to Stannis. Most folks seem to want a Stark in Winterfell. But is there a Grand Northern conspiracy? We do know Wyman Manderley is plotting to install Rickon Stark. Robert Glover, the Flints and Locks are in on it, and probably so are the Snowmen in Winterfell, Horsebane and Barbary. To the south, there's a probable plot over Robb's will to crown Jon, involving Mage and Galbert and Howland, who are connected to Stoneheart and Tom and Edmure and Brynden and the Riverrun guys. It's also kind of possible that the Mountain clans, Alysanne Mormont or Sybil Glover, are involved, themselves connected to Jon. Are all these people working together in unison, secretly scheming to play Stannis and Roose against each other, to get vengeance on the Boltons and Freys, and finally to return a Stark to Winterfell in a truly grand northern conspiracy? Are all these people connected? Maybe, but probably not, for a few reasons. Firstly, they don't have phones in Westeros.
Okay, yeah, so I was going to say that in a conspiracy this large, things would need to be, like, done exactly. I forgot where it was. I think it was Dance of the Dragons when they finally... when they had the Lannister men encircled, whoever was in charge, it was some older guy. It wasn't a Lannister. Sent up a bunch of ravens to try to get help. And the enemy forces just shot them all down. So if you're relying on ravens exclusively to get your message from A to B, super unreliable in that aspect, especially if somebody knows or has a thinking about that. They could just shoot one of your ravens down, read the message, and then conspiracy over. I think more than likely it's random houses being like, oh, damn, I'm going to be the fucking OG if I can get a Stark on the throne. So, like, the southeast houses are like, let's get Rickon Stark from Skagos. And then everywhere else is, like, secretly working independently to try to get Jon to be king. But again, I stress the word independently. It seems like a few houses here, a few houses there are working towards the same goal unknowingly.
So it's really hard to communicate secretly. There are messenger ravens, but we're told a bunch of times that it's a bad idea to trust a secret to a bird. They can be intercepted or lost, and besides, letters are generally read and written by maesters who themselves aren't trusted. Barbary and Wyman specifically both question maesters. So communication's hard.
And that brings in the whole Grand Maester conspiracy. And that's a huge conspiracy in itself.
And secondly, the bigger a conspiracy is, the less likely it is to stay secret. That's true in the real world and in Westeros, and we got a Westerosi example in the Karstark treachery. As far as we know, only a few Karstark men know about Arnulf's plan to betray Stannis, and yet, thanks to Alice, the truth gets out. Stannis himself makes a point that you can't keep secrets among lots and lots of people. Big grand conspiracies just aren't that plausible. What it really looks like is that there are multiple different separate plans at work here. Manderly wants to make Rickon Lord of Winterfell, recognizing Stannis as king, while Mage and Galbert presumably want to make Jon Snow king. People like Stoneheart and the Mountain Clansmen have their own priorities. These all seem like separate plots. So the evidence doesn't support the idea of one big cohesive Grand Northern conspiracy. What it does support are several medium-sized, loosely overlapping plots in the North and Riverlands, which
is exactly what I said. There seems like a few houses here are working towards the same goal as a few houses over there, but because it's a secret with those few people, they're not going to run over there and be like, hey, do you guys want in on this? Just for them to be like, no fucking way, we're working on the same thing. That's never going to happen, because the bigger the conspiracy is, the bigger or more it takes to fucking hide it, which is why I'm going to take it real world for a second and go into the main channel. The whole flat earth thing, where they're like, Australia isn't a real place. Do you understand the length it would take to fake an entire continent? Outside the money alone, how it would... People go there on vacation. People are from there. People can take videos from there. It would immediately get debunked by random janitor number 3 who has to clean NASA, who they're like, oh, by the way, Australia, it's really not real. They're lying to you. So something like this would have definitely gotten out.
doesn't have as much of a ring to it, but still, ultimately we can conclude that yes, there are conspiracies at work in the North. The North remembers millennia of just Stark rule. The North remembers Bolton crimes at the Red Wedding and elsewhere. The Manderleys remember. The River...
Not to mention, not just at the Red Wedding, the Boltons would skin you alive and wear your skin to the point where they're alleged to... They used to fight regularly with the Starks. They say that they have Stark, like, skins just laying around the Dreadfort. Like, that's not... Hey, this guy allegedly skinned my great-grandfather and regularly wear his skin. Yeah, I don't want those people in charge of me.
Lands remember. The Neck remembers. Winterfell remembers. The Clansmen remember. And by one plot or another, the Starks will rule the North again. Thanks for watching. There are lots more complications that we didn't cover here, like the role of Sansa and Littlefinger, the Scargosi, Mance Rayder and the Wildlings, the Pink Letter, and the Hooded...
I think in this book, it would be amazing if you guys... I did some of, like, the Lost Animals a long time ago, like a year ago, I think. And there's, like, a furry rhino with a horn that people in Skagos, like, can ride. I think that would be nuts if Rickon just randomly showed up with his Skagosi fucking furry rhinos just riding into battle. I think that would be awesome. Someone in chat said Hawaii was part of the Australia, not the United States, because of what their flag looks like. Dove, I don't know if you saw my short from the other day where I'm arguing with a chick who is prone to say dumb things about how Texas isn't a state, it's a country, even though they entered the United States in like 1845 and have been a state ever since. But she, for whatever reason, still thinks it's a country. And I'm like, Mel Fletch, that's wrong.
Man, the location of the document signed as Rob's will, and, of course, the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead. Will there even be a North left to rule? We'll talk about some of this stuff in future videos. Thank you to the Game of Thrones fan experts who helped with this video script, including Lady Gwyn and Yolkboy of Radio Westeros, and Nina Friel of the Good Queen Alysanne Tumblr. Links are below. The Grand Northern Conspiracy is an idea that hundreds of fans have contributed to over the years.
Okay, that's where we're going to stop. That's where we're going to stop for today. I just want to point out how crazy... Yeah, Wiggles, exactly. And then I made a video on it, and then she doubled down and said, well, why do you trust Google or history? What do you mean, Mel? What do you mean? Like, sovereign citizen's going to sovereign citizen. I just want to point out again that this video was made 9 years ago. That video was made 9 years ago. And there is this many people involved with the script or the theory in itself. 9 years ago, was the show still going on? Yeah, I think it was. And we were already hurting for new content 9 years ago. Yeah. Just goes to show that people still love this shit, which is why I started my channel, because I also love this shit. I think maybe I'll stream tomorrow afternoon. I kind of have a lot on my plate tomorrow, so maybe I won't stream tomorrow. But the next time I stream, it will more than likely be about the night lamp theory, which it was allegedly it's Stannis versus the Freys. And it should be fun because the theory suggests that a lot of Freys are going to die, which one of my favorite things. In the series, we want more stories. Yeah, like we're getting content through the TV shows and maybe through the Aegon the Conqueror movie. I'm kind of excited for Aegon the Conqueror movie and the surrounding lore for that because we just don't have a lot. So that might introduce some more bona fide, 100% accurate lore. I wanted to know more about the Wizard Wars and Harry Potter. Maybe I'll do some Harry Potter. I haven't even thought about it, but I do know a bunch of bullshit about Harry Potter that'll never leave my brain. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for the movie just to give us some more actual lore that we don't have to make up. I remember when the show started, my brother and I said George will finally push to the end and complete the books. He proved me wrong. Yeah, wrong. A few years ago, I make this point of every video and every stream I make about this. He said, if I don't have the books done by this day or by this year, throw me in jail. And that day was like 4 years ago. He was like, I got 1,200 pages written. And it's just like, bro, if you can't figure out a book in 4 years where you already have 1,200 pages, what are you doing? Like, I think the last bit of like shit we got was he just did a play just opened in the UK. I want to say about Robert's Rebellion, because I remember somebody being cast as Ares. But yeah, it's like, we need content, George. We need content. We want it, and we want it now. But yeah, that's it. I'm not really going to throw you guys anywhere. I'm just going to let you guys be free on your Sunday. That's not football season, so there's nothing really to do besides sit here and wait. I might give myself a haircut, might shave. Who knows? Who knows what the day will hold? But that's it. Everybody have a good rest of your day. Again, we're like 100 watch hours for being monetized for the first step, and then we got like 1,000 more. But it is what it is. I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye. 71.
1 year is far too short a time to live among such excellent and admirable hobbits. I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. I have things to do. I've put this off for far too long. I regret to announce this is the end. I'm going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell. Goodbye.